if that sounded completely wrong to you guys, but it really, really did to me. So I just stopped it before it got out of hand there. Having all kinds of technical issues today, and hopefully it works out. Yep. And so today we are bringing in Walter Chan, who is a professor and an author who is getting a book published called sorry, I'm trying to get this thing set up right now.
A persistent revolution
Thank you.
or something like that, because it's not been finally decided. It will be when it's actually out and published, but
Oh, here we go. Hide self view. That's what I was looking for. Okay. Yes. Welcome on, Walter. How's it? How are you doing today?
not too bad. Not too bad.
All right. So this book of yours. Could you please tell me a little bit about it? What are you trying to argue in this?
Sure. Hopefully you can hear the background because my child is kind of singing in the background. I could actually shut that off because there's a bit of a loudspeaker effect. But my book is about the what they call the psychiatric consumer and survivor movement, which is a movement like it's kind of like a social movement or activist movement of people who have mental health problems who use the mental health system. Psychiatric consumers are people who uh, are users of the psychiatric system. They see psychiatrists or they have been to mental hospitals, and they're somewhat critical of the system, but they are also interested in reforming the mental health system. And then the psychiatric survivors are folks who are very critical of the system, and they feel the system does much more harm than good, the psychiatric system, and they wish some of the folks may want to abolish the system and get rid of it. So my book is about looking at the leaders, some of the leaders who are activists in this movement, and looking at their leadership journeys or their life journeys, and what is the significance of this movement in our society,
Oh,
in terms of how they sort of deal with issues of injustice in mental health, but also in a larger society in terms of how mental health problems are created, like the root causes of mental health problems, such as inequality and colonialism and environmental degradation, uh,
mm-hmm.
capitalism, things like that. So
Yeah, for sure. You know, yeah. So, when I read the title of your book and I read a little bit about it, I didn't realize that psychiatric survivors. I didn't realize it was people who actually believed that the system was irredeemable. It reminds me of one time in Toronto. I went to a conference that was anti uh, psychiatric. They were specifically against psychiatric medication, and that was over at Oise. And I thought it was really interesting. But do you think that that would have been part of the same movement?
as the same movement, yeah, and it's very strong in Toronto
Huh.
because of the history of the movement. In fact, my book is a bit of a follow up to Barbara Everett's book about the 90s era Ontario survivor and consumer movement, because she's still active and around, and she had been as a therapist. She had her point of view about the movement, and she had interactions with the activists. So I know that Bonnie Burstow, I don't know her personally, but she was very heavily involved in that survivor anti-psychiatry part of the movement. And I believe Bonnie has now made her journey to the spirit world. But Yeah, Toronto is very strong in that movement because it's got the concentration of people and some of the earliest funding. Well, not earliest funding, but some of the the funding after the Graham report and of the Bob Rae government, that funding flowed to those Ontario organizations, and centered in Toronto. So yeah, that's definitely part of the movement.
Huh.
But my book is actually more about Western Canada. I don't look at Ontario. It's really based on Western Canada, but I think the issues are somewhat similar across the country, although geographically there's some, rural, urban, and things like that. There's some differences and also some geopolitical differences. Toronto's its own kind of nest because Toronto's such a hub of culture and hub of everything for Canada. So it's kind of unique in that sense.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize I had kind of like a firsthand brush with this stuff before.
Oh yeah, it's probably real strong in Toronto. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So your book is basically like, you hear the criticisms and you're trying to talk about the sorts of specific criticisms that come out of this group. Oh, oh damn. I only have an unpaid copy of Zoom.
Oh
So
shoot, we could have
if
used my account because I got it through. I got a subscription to it.
well, if you want to load that up, we can keep talking, and I'll just move the camera over to me for a second. And
How much more time do you have on your Zoom?
right now, 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
I'll probably need to go in 9 minutes, anyways.
Oh, okay. Well, this might be perfect timing then.
Yeah, that might be perfect time.
Okay. Well, that's yeah, sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really quite interesting. And yeah, it's I would say that this sort of material is like very relevant and very topical. Like in the broader realm of things, a lot of social movements nowadays are kind of going in that route of talking about systemic injustice and kind of the way that the system, like in Gabor Mate's thinking, for instance, the system stresses everyone, um, or various different academics all talk about kind of the I guess, yeah, what it is the excesses of capitalism. People use the term end stage capitalism and all that, but what it basically means is, everyone is dealing with a whole lot more stress, and like the solutions, maybe they aren't just, people need therapy or people need drugs or whatever. Maybe there are other solutions um, at play. Yeah. So that's kind of what you're talking about there.
Yeah, that is. So the specific themes that get involved in the book are, if I can remember off the top of my head, because I was actually writing about it last night, because I need to submit a chapter to Rutledge for them to evaluate it when I do that next few days. So, what are the main themes? I think there are probably three main themes. One is, just going to remember this correctly. One is the theme of the journey of from going from what this is from one of my interviewees, going from victim to survivor to warrior, uh, because many of the folks who use the psychiatric system, and I'm myself one of them. Like I am a person with mental health problems, and I use the psychiatric system. Still trying to find a psychiatrist here in Ontario because it's been a little bit hard to find, and I don't even have someone to refer to for my old psychiatrist to make a referral to because there's a shortage or people are hard to reach. But a lot of the people who, and I talk about my story a little bit too, but more so about the interviewee stories. A lot of people who come into the psychiatric system are people who've been abused previously, in childhood, and they come in there and then they suffer another kind of trauma, which is uh, uh, wasn't exactly my experience, but experience of many other people is institutional betrayal, where at
Mm-hmm.
your most vulnerable, you go into the healthcare system, into the mental health system, and then they start treating you as not, they don't treat you like a human being. They treat you like a disease, and they denigrate you. And then, so one of the sort of like the main thought leaders of the movement, and I'm trying to remember her name now, Pat Deegan, she would say it's like she has this image of a flower or a lotus or something like that, and the passing of the seasons. So in that winter season, when you first get mental health problems and people, it could be getting psychosis, it could be a personality problem. When people are struck with that, then they are very vulnerable. They go into the system seeking help. They immediately get the sense they're getting mistreated, but they're also very vulnerable. So they may be acting out. Then they start shutting down. Like Pat Deegan would say at that time, I'm, people would just, she herself, she said, I'd go to the day programs. I would do my smoke. I would do my coffee. People ask me to do stuff. I don't even try because the pain of failure, of repeated failure after failure after failure is so great that they don't want to give an effort, right? They want to protect themselves from that pain. So they shut down, and that's the image of a flower in the winter. And then there could be, a springtime too. And then she calls that the recovery, right? Like a recovery phase where people are still hampered, through by their mental health problems in terms of their day-to-day life, but they might recover part of their self. They may recover part of their hope, um, even if they're still getting like psychosis, even if they're still getting hallucinations, even if they're still getting, like extreme emotional states.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a continuing part of the journey. So my interview had said it's a, and I would actually, but I haven't gotten her permission yet. I would like her to actually say her name because, she really is a thought leader as well, even though she's not like a well-known person in Canada. That journey from victim to survivor to inner warrior. That's one theme. The second theme would probably be, I'm just trying to think, because I sort of organized this book according to my research questions.
Mm-hmm.
The second theme would be uh, looking at the organizational aspect of the movement, because according to social movement theory, movements that are successful because they're well organized. Classic cases being like the civil rights movement in the United States, where there's a huge amount of organizing that goes on. In fact, they out organize their adversary, right? They can out organize the segregationists. They can out organize the KKK. They can out organize even the federal government in some ways, like the black churches, and then the the white liberals that are supporting the movement, and providing resource, like money and manpower and so on. So our movement, the consumer and survivor movement, is not that well organized. So Barbara Everett felt that our movement was probably not going to be that successful. That's why she called it a fragile revolution, that it was inherently fragile.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she alluded to, although she could probably contest me on this, she alluded to that maybe because the people who have mental health problems are inherently fragile. So the leadership they provide is inherently fragile. Therefore, the movement is inherently fragile. That's my
Yeah.
interpretation of her book. But I actually found something a little bit different in that the movement is actually a more resilient creature than it's given credit for, that it can absorb a lot of shocks and changes and still keep rolling. And that's the sort of the theme that I am arguing for. And that's why I kind of found through my research. Um, but There's also a contest
Mm.
between the grassroots movement, which is often composed of people on the margins and also people who are poor, and the sort of the celebrity-driven mental health movement, like Howie Mandel or even athletes who are given what do you call it? They're supported by Bell Let's Talk, and then
Mm-hmm.
that movement is the most popular one about mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like Bell Let's Talk and things like that, or workplace mental health movements such as like the
You
one
know,
supported by Great West Life or Canada Life.
so Walter,
Um,
you have about
oh,
50 seconds remaining.
oh, is that right?
Yes.
I think we might have to do another interview.
Yeah, we might. We might. Maybe would you like to wrap it up with one idea? Just give it really nice and succinct. Uh you know, I don't know. What do you want people to take away from your book?
Well, for now, because I think we just got part of the interview in, I would say the most important thing I would like to take away from the book is that sort of the personal is political. So our mental health problems are not just our individual problem. They're linked to how we were raised, how or
Yeah. And thank you very much, Walter. I'm sorry, everyone. This it's been a little while, as you all know, and this episode has been a little bit um, filled with errors. But yeah, I'll have to have Walter on again to maybe talk about his book once more. I would really love to do that. And yeah, I hope you guys all have a good day. I hope you're not getting too depressed about what's going on in Gaza right now, because that's just horrible. And yeah, keep it real. I think I got the music thing working, so we'll see. I'll play it, and if it sounds horrible, I'll just stop the stream. Okay, so I hope you all have a good day. Peace.